Okay, so now we've got cultural variations in attachment. What basically attachments don't just differ in babies, but between cultures too. And cultures we're going to talk about are two different types: individualist and collectivist cultures. Joe, explain.
Well, an individualist culture is very big on independence, and they highly value individual achievement.
They do. For example, the Western cultures like us, UK, or the US.
Yes. Collectivist cultures emphasize the importance of importance of the group, and are characterized by the extent as to which things are shared and on independence.
Interdependence, that was.
Interdependence, sorry.
Yep, so for example, countries like Japan or Israel. Okay, so some cross-cultural similarities. First we have mothers and babies in Uganda. The infants here use their mothers as a secure base for exploring, just like in the UK and the US. They also found that the mothers of the securely attached infants showed greater sensitivity towards them than insecurely attached babies. We also have the African tribe, the Ifi tribe from the Democratic Republic of Congo. These lived in extended family groups, so the infants were looked after but also breastfed by different women. But they slept with their own mother at night. Despite these differences, at 6 months, children still showed one primary attachment figure. Cross-cultural differences.
Cross-cultural differences, okay. There was a study similar to the strange situation, but it was done in Japan with 60 middle-class infants and mothers. They found no evidence of insecure avoidant attachments. However, a high percentage were insecure resistant. That was 32% of them. They were particularly distressed when left alone. 90% of the infants were so distressed that they had to stop the study.
They did.
It's thought that this is because Japanese infants are rarely separated from the mother. Also, cross-cultural difference, German infants are more insecure avoidant, and the culture involves interpersonal distance and independence.
Which does explain that.
Yes.
Okay, so some quick evaluations so far. We found that the strongest attachments are still formed with a primary caregiver, despite the cultural variations in care arrangements.
Yes.
Okay, so let's evaluate all of this. The main study for this is the meta-analysis that analysed the results of 2,000 babies in 32 studies in 8 different countries.
Pretty widespread.
Yeah, it's obviously a very large sample, which is a good thing. So it's possible to generalise and is representative of, dare I say, the whole world. However, most of these studies were carried out in the US. In fact, 18 out of the 32 of these studies were. So that kind of goes against that point there.
Yeah.
It's more representative of the US than any other country. In fact, only 4 studies were in the Netherlands, 2 or 3 studies in Israel, Japan and Germany, and only 1 in the other countries that they studied in. So that's not good. Just looking at West Germany in particular, they did 3 studies here. But they all showed different findings. This shows intracultural variation, nearly 1.5 times the cross-cultural variation. However, oversimplification, it is an oversimplification to assume all these infants are raised in the same way within the same cultures and countries, which I do agree with.
Yes, so let's go on to some general evaluation. Cross-cultural similarities can be explained by effects of mass media, so the TV and internet, which spreads parenting ideas all over the world, increasing the global culture, as it were.
Yes, also indigenous researchers, so psychologists that belonged to the native cultures might have been studying their country in their countries, so, experimental bias, things like that. However, also for the psychologists that were studying other countries, general common sense problems here with understanding language, etc. So they might be asking a question and not necessarily fully understand the answer that they give. That's a problem.
Imposed ethic. A technique designed in one culture but used in another. For example, IQ tests are not appropriate in a tribe culture. Strange Situation shows Israeli children as insecurely attached by Western criteria, but are actually securely attached by Israeli standards.
They are, and remember that word, imposed ethic, because that's a good one to put in. And that concludes cultural variations.
Woo! Let's go on to
delayed woo.